What started as a friendly sit-down between two comedy legends turned into one of the most shocking moments in entertainment history. Katt Williams versus Kevin Hart, a clash that nobody saw coming. But everyone's still talking about because when two of Hollywood's sharpest minds and biggest egos share the same stage, it's not just an interview. It's a battlefield at first. It seemed harmless, laughs, memories, and old jokes from their days hustling on the comedy circuit. But within minutes, the energy shifted. Katt's tone changed. His eyes told a different story, one filled with resentment, betrayal, and something deeper, truth that had been buried for years. Kevin tried to keep it light, smiling through the tension, but Katt wasn't having it. He leaned forward, dropped his voice, and said words that froze the entire studio. Words that exposed Hollywood's hidden hierarchy and Kevin's place in it. The audience gasped. The host tried to step in. Cameras kept rolling. And what happened next was pure chaos. This wasn't just a feud between two comedians. It was a moment where authenticity clashed with image. Truth clashed with fame. And the mask finally cracked. Because behind the lights, laughter and billion-dollar box office hits lies a darker world. One of manipulation, jealousy, and deals that go far beyond the stage. And tonight, we're diving deep into it all. From the subtle jabs to the explosive accusations that turned this interview into a viral firestorm. This is the full story of how a conversation turned into confrontation, and why Hollywood may never look at Kevin Hart the same way. Again, what you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about comedy's biggest names. The night began like any other high-profile celebrity interview. Bright lights, sleek cameras, and an eager audience waiting for another feel-good conversation between two comedy giants. The energy in the studio was electric. Producers whispered directions. Assistants adjusted microphones, and somewhere in the back, the faint buzz of anticipation echoed like a storm brewing beneath clear skies. Kevin Hart walked in first, smiling, confident, polished to perfection. Hollywood's golden boy. The man who turned stand-up into superstardom. His charm filled the room before he even spoke, and the audience responded with laughter before the first question was asked. That's Kevin's power, a presence built from years of grinding, quitting, and playing by the industry's rules. Then came Katt Williams. No entourage, no polished grin, just quiet intensity. He took his seat with the kind of energy that made everyone else in the room take a subtle step back. His reputation preceded him. Brilliant, unpredictable, unfiltered. Katt was the truth that Hollywood never quite knew how to handle. The host introduced them like old friends. Two kings of comedy sharing one stage. But the moment the cameras started rolling, the tension became almost physical. It started slow, polite banter, mutual respect, talk of humble beginnings and tough roads to success. Kevin spoke about growth, maturity, building his empire. Katt nodded, his smile tight but his eyes sharp. He was listening, studying. Then came the question that changed everything. So, Katt, do you ever feel like Hollywood doesn't give you the same opportunities as Kevin? A small, loaded question, but it was enough to ignite years of unspoken frustration. Katt leaned back, took a slow breath, and smirked. You mean, do I feel like I didn't play the game right? His voice dripped with sarcasm, his gaze never leaving Kevin. The audience chuckled nervously. Kevin shifted in his seat, laughing it off, trying to steer the energy back to friendly. But Katt wasn't done. See, he continued, some of us had to fight for every spotlight we got. Some of us didn't have the industry rolling out the red carpet. We didn't have handlers teaching us how to smile for cameras. We had to earn laughs the hard way on real stages with real people. Kevin nodded slowly, keeping his composure. That's fair, he said, but you can't be mad at a man for figuring out how to make it work. Katt's smile vanished. Make it work or make it fake. The audience gasped. The air thickened. Even the host froze, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let it play out. Katt continued, his tone calm, but his words razor sharp. I'm just saying, when you stop being funny and start being marketable, that's not comedy anymore. That's control. Kevin sat still, his trademark grin slipping for the first time. His eyes met Katt's, and in that moment, the room knew this wasn't about jokes. This was about truth. For years, rumors had swirled around Hollywood about tension between the two. Katt, the raw talent who refused to bow. Kevin, the superstar who became the industry's poster child. Some said Katt resented Kevin's success. Others whispered that Kevin's rise came at Katt's expense. But now, for the first time, it was being said out loud. Kevin leaned forward, his voice steady but firm. I respect you, Katt, but I've worked for everything I've got. Nobody handed me anything." Katt chuckled softly. "Nobody hands you nothing in Hollywood, Kev. But they sure make deals behind closed doors. And the price. Sometimes it's your soul." The studio went silent. Kevin blinked. The host tried to interject, but the tension was unbreakable. Katt wasn't attacking, he was exposing. Not just Kevin, but the entire system. A system where authenticity is traded for access and talent alone isn't enough. Kevin's jaw tightened. "I don't sell out. I build up. I created opportunities not just for me, but for everybody who looks like me." Katt nodded, his tone softening for a moment. "And I respect that. But don't confuse opportunity with obedience." The crowd reacted, murmurs, gasps, and a sense that something historic was happening. What was meant to be a conversation about comedy had become a confrontation about power, about who gets to speak and who gets silenced. Behind the scenes, producers exchanged worried glances. They were sitting on gold, viral gold, but they also knew they were watching a friendship burn in real time. Kevin leaned back, exhaled, and forced a laugh. "Man, you always find a way to turn a compliment into a conspiracy." But the laugh didn't land. The tension lingered. Katt tilted his head. "It's not a conspiracy when it's happening in plain sight." Then silence. The kind that hums in your chest like thunder waiting to break. The host finally spoke, nervously changing the topic. Okay, let's talk about your upcoming tours," but it was too late. The mask had cracked. For the rest of the interview, Kevin kept his smile, but it was strained. Katt kept his cool, but his words carried weight, every sentence a reminder that behind Hollywood's glitter lies a game nobody admits to playing. And as the cameras stopped rolling, everyone in the room knew they hadn't just witnessed an interview. They'd witnessed a reckoning, because that night, two kings didn't just share a stage. They drew their battle lines. The interview had ended, but the tension in the room died in single quotes. As soon as the director yelled "cut," dozen people rushed in, assistants, PR managers, security. The air was thick, not with laughter, but with something raw and uncomfortable. Kevin forced a grin, stood up, and extended his hand toward Katt. But Katt didn't take it. He just looked at him long and hard, then grabbed his jacket, adjusted his sunglasses, and walked off the set like a man who had just dropped the truth. And didn't care about the fallout. The silence that followed was deafening. Kevin's team was already in damage control mode. His manager whispered urgently in his ear, "We can cut that part out. We'll clean it up in post. Don't worry about it." Kevin nodded, trying to stay calm, but his jaw was tight. You could tell he wasn't angry. He was hurt. Because beneath all the Hollywood polish, Kevin Hart still came from the same grind Katt did. The same late-night clubs, the same hecklers, the same struggle to make people laugh. But the world was about to see it differently. By the next morning, a clip from the interview, the part where Katt said, "Don't confuse opportunity with obedience," had leaked online. Nobody knew how. Maybe someone on the production team. Maybe someone who smelled a viral moment. Either way, within hours, it had millions of views. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all flooded with one question. Was Katt Williams calling Kevin Hart a sellout? Fans picked sides fast. On one end, you had #Team Katt, people praising him for speaking truth to power. Katt just said what everyone's been thinking. One tweet read, "Kevin plays safe, Katt plays real." On the other side, #Team Kevin, loyal fans defending him. Kevin Hart worked for everything he's got. That man built an empire from nothing. Don't hate the player, hate the system. Don't hate the player, hate the system. The internet had turned their moment of tension into a digital war zone. Memes, reaction videos, even celebrity commentators joined in. Charlemagne thought God called it the realest Hollywood moment in years. Joe Budden went on his podcast and said that wasn't a beef. That was truth versus comfort. But behind the screens, things were even more chaotic. Kevin's publicist released a statement. Kevin Hart has nothing but respect for Katt Williams. He believes all comedians have the right to their opinions and appreciates the dialogue. It was professional, clean, but it didn't stop the storm. Meanwhile, Katt went quiet. No tweets, no interviews, no clarifications. Just silence. And that silence made him even louder. People started digging up old interviews where he'd made similar claims about Hollywood gatekeeping, about the price of fame, about people playing by the rules to stay on the stage. Clips resurfaced of Katt calling out Tiffany Haddish, Cedric the Entertainer, and Steve Harvey, all moments where he'd said too much and paid the price. But this time, it was different. This time, people weren't laughing him off. They were listening. Kevin, on the other hand, was booked to appear on The Breakfast Club a few days later, a spot he couldn't cancel without looking like he was hiding. When he walked into that studio, cameras flashing, everyone wanted to know, would he respond? He took a deep breath and smiled, the same way he always does when things get heavy. Charlemagne wasted no time. Kev, man, everybody's talking about that interview with Katt Williams. What's your side of it? Kevin paused, leaned forward, and said calmly, look, I've got nothing but love for Katt. He's one of the best to ever do it. But I'm not going to let somebody else's bitterness change my energy. I don't move like that. Charlemagne pressed further. So you're saying he's bitter? Kevin laughed softly. I'm saying everybody got their own truth. His just doesn't match mine. It was smooth, professional, but it didn't stop the headlines. The internet clipped that one line, his truth doesn't match mine, and ran wild with it. Overnight, think pieces and YouTube breakdowns popped up everywhere. Kevin Hart versus Katt Williams. The real meaning behind the feud. How Hollywood picks its favorites. Katt Williams warned us about this years ago. Somewhere in Atlanta, Katt was watching all this unfold from his living room, calm, collected, almost amused. His assistant asked if he wanted to make a statement. Katt just smiled and said, "The truth don't need a press release." Meanwhile, Hollywood insiders started whispering. Comedy clubs that once blacklisted Katt suddenly wanted him back. His ticket sales spiked. Every time he went live on Instagram, tens of thousands tuned in just to see if he'd say more. But he didn't have to. The world had already taken his side, or at least his message's side. But this wasn't just about two comedians. It was about everything underneath it. The quiet resentment between the mainstream and the underground. The Hollywood approved versus the real ones. The people who play the game and those who break it. Kevin found himself in a strange position. For years, he'd been everyone's favorite. The hardworking, humble, relatable star who built himself from nothing. But now suddenly, the narrative was shifting. The more he tried to stay positive, the more people called him fake. It was like he couldn't win. And behind closed doors, that pressure was starting to show. Friends close to Kevin said he was more withdrawn, less talkative, more guarded. He feels like no matter what he says, people twist it. One insider revealed, he built everything the right way, but now it's like being successful makes you suspicious. Meanwhile, Katt was glowing, rejuvenated. In his next stand-up show in Chicago, he opened with, "They said I was crazy for telling the truth. Now they calling me prophetic. Ain't that something?" The crowd roared. It was official. The feud had evolved into a movement. What started as a tense exchange in an interview had turned into a cultural conversation about authenticity, control, and who really owns their voice in the entertainment industry. And while Kevin tried to stay above it, Katt kept feeding it with quiet confidence, never addressing Kevin directly, but dropping cryptic gems in every performance. See, when you real, they call you difficult. When you fake, they call you successful. By now, it wasn't just comedy fans watching, it was everyone. Rap artists, influencers, even film directors weighed in. 50 Cent tweeted, "Katt just told y'all the truth. Hollywood don't like when real ones talk too loud." Kevin didn't reply, but the silence spoke louder than any tweet could. Because behind all the jokes, all the sound bites, all the viral clips, two men who once shared the same dream now stood on opposite sides of it. One built an empire, the other built a legacy. And the world was starting to ask which one lasts longer. The feud that started as a few fiery words between two comedians had now turned into a full-blown cultural moment. Every podcast, every talk show, every YouTube channel had an opinion. But behind the noise, something deeper was shifting. A silent power struggle that went far beyond Kevin Hart and Katt Williams. Hollywood had begun to pick sides. Executives were nervous. Agents whispered in private meetings, "This can't go on. It's dividing the industry." Studios wanted Kevin to stay clean, to stay safe. But the audience was starting to crave the opposite. They wanted raw. They wanted real. They wanted Katt. For the first time in years, Kevin felt the weight of that demand pressing against everything he'd built. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about respect. He had always been the hardest worker in the room. Up before dawn. Meetings, stand-up tours, movies, interviews, family, repeat. He was the definition of discipline. But suddenly, that discipline was being twisted into something darker. Corporate-controlled, inauthentic. Katt's words had changed the narrative. Don't confuse opportunity with obedience. It was more than a line. It was a challenge. Kevin could have ignored it. But when you've built your career on image, silence becomes its own kind of weakness. So one night during a live Q&A on Instagram, Kevin finally broke. He didn't mean to, but emotion has a way of slipping through even the toughest smiles. "You know what's funny?" he said, his voice tight but calm. "People love to tear down success. They say they want real, but when you give them structure, when you build something sustainable, suddenly you're the villain. I came from nothing. I didn't have a rich family. I didn't sell out. I leveled up." The comments exploded. Thousands of fans flooded the chat. Some cheered him on. Others accused him of deflecting. One comment pinned at the top read, "Real ones don't explain themselves." Katt never has to. That line hit him like a punch. The next morning, the blogs ran wild. Kevin Hart breaks down live, can't handle Katt Williams' smoke. Katt wins again. The internet crowns a new comedy king. But behind the headlines, something else was happening. A week later, Katt was invited to appear on Drink Champs, NORE. Ever the instigator didn't waste any time. "So Katt," he said with a grin, "you've got the whole internet on fire. You and Kevin, what's really going on?" Katt leaned back in his chair, sipped his drink, and smiled. "Ain't no beef," he said slowly. "It's just different frequencies. Some of us speak truth, some of us perform it." The crowd in the studio laughed and cheered, but everyone watching at home knew that wasn't peace. That was poetry dipped in gasoline. And just like that, the feud reignited. This time, it wasn't just fans arguing online. It was comedians themselves. Corey Holcomb posted, "Katt been the truth since day one. Hollywood don't like truth tellers." Meanwhile, Kevin's close friend Tiffany Haddish fired back, "You can't knock a man for doing the work. Period." It was open war, not in the streets, but in comment sections, on podcasts. On stages, Netflix executives reportedly debated whether to even book Katt for another special. One insider claimed, "He's too unpredictable. We can't control the message." And that was exactly the problem. The more Hollywood tried to control the narrative, the more people sided with Katt. Because for years, audiences had been waiting for someone to say the quiet part out loud, that fame in Hollywood wasn't free, that some comedians had to play roles, bite their tongues, laugh when they didn't want to. Katt wasn't just fighting Kevin anymore. He was fighting the machine, and people loved it. Clips of his Drink Champs interview went viral again, spliced with old footage of him roasting industry elites and monologues about staying real. His message became a movement. Fans started calling it the Katt Revolution. Meanwhile, Kevin felt a backlash ripple through his projects. His latest film, a big-budget buddy comedy, opened lower than expected. Critics called it predictable, safe, formulaic. It wasn't the first time Kevin had faced criticism, but this time it stung differently. Because for the first time in his career, people weren't laughing with him. They were laughing at him. Then came the breaking point. During an awards ceremony in Los Angeles, Kay was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award. It should have been a triumphant moment. It's the kind every comedian dreams of. But as he stood on stage holding the trophy, something in his eyes shifted. He smiled, but it wasn't the usual big Kevin Hart grin. It was tighter, sadder. "They say I made it," he said, looking out at the audience. "But I didn't make it alone. Every comic who came before me, the real ones, the loud ones, the ones who spoke up even when it cost them, they paved the way." He paused. The room went silent. And even if we don't always see eye to eye, I respect that. No names were mentioned, but everyone knew who he was talking about. Katt Williams was watching from home. And for the first time, he didn't smile. The feud had gone full circle from words to war, to something almost reflective. Because beneath the headlines, the memes, and the controversy, both men had done something powerful. They'd forced the world to talk about truth, power, and authenticity in comedy again. Kevin represented the system, structured, polished, relentless. Katt represented rebellion, raw, untamed, unpredictable, and together, they'd reignited the oldest debate in entertainment. Is it better to play the game or to break it? But even as the noise began to die down, there was one more twist coming. A leaked clip from an upcoming Netflix comedy roundtable surfaced online. A clip that showed Kevin, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, and yes, Katt Williams all sitting at the same table. No one knew what was said yet, but just the sight of them together sent shockwaves through the internet. The caption on the clip said it all. Sometimes the punchline is the truth. The world held its breath. Was this reconciliation or the calm before the next storm? Because if history has taught us anything, it's this. When Kevin Hart and Katt Williams share the same stage, nothing stays peaceful for long. And the question remained, who would have the last laugh? What you just witnessed isn't just a feud between two comedians. It's a reflection of the entire entertainment industry's silent war. On one side, Kevin Hart, disciplined, structured, the empire builder who climbed every rung of Hollywood's ladder. On the other, Katt Williams, fearless, unfiltered. It's the truth teller who refuses to play by anyone's rules. Their clash was never just about jokes. It was about freedom. Freedom to speak. Freedom to stay real. Freedom to rise without surrendering your soul. And now, as rumors swirl about that mysterious Netflix roundtable, one question hangs in the air. Will these two icons finally find common ground? Or is this just the calm before the next explosion? Because when legends collide, history doesn't end. It evolves. Think about it. How many artists have we seen silenced because they refused to fit in? How many voices were reshaped, repackaged, or erased to make someone else comfortable? Katt didn't just expose Kevin, he exposed a system that rewards obedience more than originality. And yet, Kevin's journey can't be dismissed. His success, his grind, his relentless energy, it's proof that sometimes structure can create change from within. So maybe this isn't a war between good and bad. Maybe it's a mirror showing us both sides of fame, both paths to power. But now it's your turn. Whose side are you on, Kevin Hart, the strategist who built his throne brick by brick? Or Katt Williams, the rebel who refuses to kneel? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation isn't just about comedy anymore. It's about truth versus control. And don't forget, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to understand what's really happening behind Hollywood's curtain. And subscribe for more stories they'll never dare to air on mainstream. Media, because the story of Kevin Hart and Katt Williams isn't ending. It's only just beginning.